Imagine this scenario. It is a Tuesday morning in November. The sky is grey, the air is cold, and you are driving over to check on your late mother's house. You inherited it 6 months ago. It is a classic Victorian terrace in a decent street. It needs work. The roof has a slow leak. The wiring is from the 1970s. And, emotionally, you just haven't been ready to face the task of clearing out 40 years of memories. You go there on weekends, do a bit of painting, sort through some boxes. It is your property. You own the deed. You pay the insurance. It belongs to you. You pull into the driveway and grab your keys. But when you put the key in the lock, it doesn't turn. You jiggle it. Nothing. It feels wrong. You step back, confused, and look up at the windows. Your stomach drops. There is a metal shutter over the downstairs bay window, a cold, industrial piece of steel blocking out the light. Panic sets in. You look back at the front door. Taped to the wood, right over the letterbox, is a piece of paper inside a plastic wallet. It has the local council's crest on the top. It doesn't say, "Fine." It doesn't say, "Warning." It reads, "Interim Management Order. Possession taken." You call the number on the sheet, your hands shaking. A bureaucrat on the other end tells you calmly, almost robotically, "Sir, that property has been deemed a wasted resource under the Housing Act 2004. The council has taken possession effective immediately. We will be renovating it using the equity in the property, and we will be placing a tenant from our emergency waiting list into the house next month. You are no longer permitted entry to the premises. Do not attempt to change the locks, or you will be committing a criminal offence." You think this is impossible. You think this only happens in authoritarian regimes. You think property rights in the UK are sacred and untouchable. You are wrong. Welcome to 2026. This is the era of the Empty Dwelling Management Order, or EDMO. Across Britain, bankrupt councils are weaponising obscure legislation to seize private homes, strip the owners of their rights, and use these properties to plug the desperate holes in their social housing budgets. They call it bringing homes back into use. I call it state-sanctioned theft. In this video, I am going to expose the aggressive new tactics councils are using to target what they call empty homes. I am going to break down the 300% council tax premium that is bankrupting heirs before they can even get a grant of probate. I'm going to show you the terrifying math of an EDMO, where the council spends your money on overpriced repairs without your permission. But you need to watch this video right to the very last second, because at the end, I am going to hand you a specific defence playbook. I will reveal the 3 exact legal strategies you can use today to prove your house is occupied, including a little-known furnishing loophole and a specific type of contract that legally blocks the council from seizing your keys. If you own a second home, an investment property, or an inherited house, the information at the end of this video could save you hundreds of thousands of pounds. Do not click away, or you might find a notice taped to your own door. To understand why this is happening right now, we have to look at the bigger picture of broken Britain. We have to follow the money, or rather, the lack of it. We all know the headlines: Birmingham, Nottingham, Woking, Thurrock. Major councils are declaring Section 114. That is the local government equivalent of bankruptcy. They have run out of cash. But here is the problem. Even though they are broke, they still have a statutory legal obligation to house people. There are currently over 1.2 million households on social housing waiting lists in the UK. That number is rising every single day. The central government is pressuring councils to build new homes, but building is slow and expensive. Building a new council house costs upwards of £200,000 and takes 2 years of planning permission. Seizing your empty house? That costs them the price of a locksmith, some paperwork, and a lawyer's fee. It is fast, it is cheap, and it solves their political problem instantly. For years, EDMOs were the nuclear option. They were rare. They were only used for those nightmare properties you see on the news. The ones with trees growing through the roof, rat infestations, and smashed windows that were ruining the entire street. Nobody argued with those seizures, but in 2026 the definition of empty has shifted. The goalposts have been moved. They are no longer just looking for the derelict ruins. They are looking for the second home that isn't visited enough. They are looking for the probate property where the family is arguing over the will. They are looking for the buy-to-let that is sitting empty between tenants because the landlord is struggling to find a builder. This is a resource grab. The council sees your asset not as your private property, but as a wasted resource that they have a moral right to commandeer. And the most terrifying part? They are using military-grade technology to find you. Gone are the days when a council officer had to walk down the street with a clipboard looking for long grass. That was too slow. Now they use data matching. They cross-reference your water bill. The water companies share data with the council. If your water usage has been near zero for 6 months, that is a red flag. The computer marks you as empty. They check the electoral roll. Is anyone registered to vote at that address? No? Flagged. They check the credit reference agencies. Is there any financial activity linked to the address? No? Flagged. Some councils are even using AI analysis of satellite imagery and Google Street View to look for signs of neglect, like moss on the driveway or curtains that never open. And they are weaponizing your neighbours. Many councils now have report an empty home apps where neighbours can anonymously report you. If your neighbour is annoyed that your garden is a bit messy, they report you. The council opens a file. The clock starts ticking. Once you are on the empty homes list, they don't come for the keys immediately. First, they try to bleed you dry financially. This is the softening up process. It's called the council tax premium. If your property is classed as long-term empty, which usually means 2 years, but in some aggressive boroughs, they have reduced this to just 1 year, they can charge you a penalty premium. It used to be a 50% surcharge. Then it went to 100%. Now, under new powers, if a home has been empty for a few years, the premium can hit 300%. Let's do the actual math on that, because it is shocking. Let's say you own a standard Band D property. The normal council tax is around $2,000 a year. With a 300% premium, you are paying 4 times the base rate. You are paying $8,000 a year. That is 666 sons every single month, just for the privilege of owning an empty building. You get no trash collection because you aren't there. You use no local services. You don't send kids to school, but you pay 4 times as much as the family next door with 3 cars and 5 people. This tax is designed to do one thing: force a distressed sale. They want to make it so painfully expensive to hold the property that you give up. They want to force you to sell it cheap, often to the council themselves or to a housing association partners who will offer you 70% of the market value because they know you are desperate. But here is the trap for people in probate. We know that the probate system in the UK is broken. The courts are backlogged. It can take 12 to 18 months just to get the grant of probate so you can legally sell a house. During that time, you are stuck in limbo. You literally cannot sell the house. It is illegal. But the council tax department doesn't care. The exemptions for probate are short, often only 6 months. After that, they start hammering you with the bills. I have seen cases where grieving families have had to take out personal loans just to pay the $600 a month tax on a house they haven't even inherited yet. It is a bureaucratic pincer movement. The court holds you back, and the taxman pushes you forward. And if you refuse to pay, or if you simply run out of money and can't pay, that gives them exactly the leverage they need. They create debts against the property. This is the justification they need to go to a residential property tribunal and apply for the EDMO. They stand up in court and say, "Your Honour, this owner is negligent. They are abandoning the property. They aren't paying the tax. They are a drain on the community. The home is a wasted asset. We need to take over management to recover the debt. And the tribunal, under immense political pressure to solve the housing crisis, is saying yes more and more often. The threshold for seizing a home is getting lower every single year. So let's look at the mechanics of the seizure, because this is the part nobody explains until it is too late. When a council gets a final EDMO, they don't steal ownership of the deed in the sense that your name comes off the land registry. You still technically own the brick and mortar, but you lose what lawyers call beneficial enjoyment. You lose the right to enter your own front door. You lose the right to sell the property without the council's explicit permission. You lose the right to choose who lives there. The council becomes the manager. And let me tell you, they are the worst property managers in the world. First, they assess the repairs. If you were renovating that house, you might be smart about it. You might use your cousin who is a builder. You might shop around for a kitchen at B&Q or IKEA. You might do the painting yourself to save money. The council doesn't do that. They use their approved contractors. These are the large facilities management firms that charge the government $500 to change a light bulb and $15,000 to install a basic kitchenette. They will spec the house up to decent home standard. This sounds good, but it means they might strip out original Victorian features you wanted to keep because they don't meet modern energy efficiency codes. They might rip out a vintage fireplace and put in a cheap electric heater. They might install ugly fire doors in every room. And the most important question, who pays for this renovation? You do. The council pays the contractor up front, but every single penny is added to the management account of the property. It becomes a debt attached to the house. Then, once the renovation is done, they place a tenant. This tenant comes directly from the top of the council's emergency housing list. Now, this could be a lovely family down on their luck, but statistically, the people at the top of the emergency list are the hardest to house. They might be people with complex behavioural needs. They might be people who have been evicted from 3 other properties for antisocial behaviour. You have no vetting rights. You cannot ask for a reference. You cannot say no. The council collects the rent from this tenant. Great, you think. At least I get the rental income. Wrong. The council keeps the rent. They use the rent to pay off the management costs, which involves a hefty admin fee for themselves and the renovation costs, that overpriced builder we talked about. Only once those debts are fully paid off do you see a single penny. Given how councils operate, the math is often rigged so that the rent never fully covers the costs until the very end of the order. An EDMO can last for 7 years. For 7 years, your house is being used, worn down, and lived in. You are receiving 0 income. You are paying the mortgage if you still have one. And at the end of the 7 years, they hand you back the keys. The house is now 7 years older. The tenant has moved out, hopefully without trashing the place. The decor is tired and institutional, and you have lost a decade of capital appreciation potential because you couldn't sell at the peak of the market. You were locked out of your own asset during the boom times. This is the reality of the EDMO. It is a financial prison sentence for your property. But enough doom and gloom. I promised you a solution. If you own an empty property, a second home, or you are stuck in probate, how do you stop this? You need to make your property legally occupied or actively marketing. Here is the defense playbook. These are the 4 strategies you need to implement this week. Defense strategy 1. The substantially furnished loophole. An empty house is a target. A furnished house is a second home. There is a massive legal difference between the two. If the council officer looks through the window and sees bare floorboards, no curtains, and emptiness, he marks it as empty. If he sees a bed, a table, a fridge, a sofa, and curtains, it is a residence. Even if you don't sleep there every night, Legally, to be exempt from some of the harshest premiums and to fight off a seizure order, the property must be substantially furnished. If you have inherited a house, do not clear it out completely until you are 100% ready to sell. Leave the heavy furniture. If you are renovating, keep one room livable. Keep a bed in the back room. Keep a kettle and a microwave in the kitchen. Put curtains on the windows. Make it look like a paused life, not an abandoned shell. It forces the council to treat it as a second home, which has much stronger legal protections than an empty dwelling. Defence strategy. 2. The active renovation log. The council will argue in court that you are doing nothing with the asset. You need to prove you are doing something. You need to treat your renovation like a military operation. Keep a detailed log of every single visit. January 12th. Visited property, cleared garden waste. February 4th. Met with architect for plans. March 10th. Painted hallway. Keep receipts for everything, even for small things like paintbrushes or light bulbs. If they threaten an EDMO, you dump this file on their desk. You say, "I am not abandoning the property. I am an active developer facing supply chain delays and labour shortages." It is much harder for a tribunal to grant a seizure order against someone who can prove they are actively visiting and maintaining the building. It destroys their argument of abandonment. Defence strategy. 3. The property guardian. Shield. This is my favourite strategy for lengthy probate or planning delays. It is the golden ticket. Instead of leaving the house empty, you sign up with a property guardian company. These companies place working professionals, usually nurses, teachers or creatives, in your house to live there for a very low rent. The guardian keeps the house secure. No squatters can break in. The heating stays on, so you get no damp or burst pipes. But crucially, the house is occupied. The council cannot touch it. You don't pay the 300% empty homes premium. Usually the guardian company handles the council tax, or the property becomes Class N exempt. And here is the magic. Guardian contracts are not tenancies. They are licenses to occupy. If you had a normal tenant, it could take you 12 months to evict them through the courts if you wanted to sell. With a guardian, you give them 28 days' notice, and they leave. It gives you the flexibility of an empty house with the protection of an occupied one. It shields the asset completely from the seizure radar. Defence strategy 4. The active marketing exemption. Most EDMO legislation contains a specific exemption for properties that are genuinely on the market for sale or let. If you are getting hassled by the council, stop waiting. Put the property on the market, even if you put it on for a high price, even if you aren't desperate to sell yet. Get it on Rightmove, get it on Zoopla, get an estate agent to put a for sale board in the garden. As long as it is publicly listed for sale, the council usually has to back off. They cannot seize a home that is currently being marketed because you are proving that you are trying to return it to use. Do not try to sell it privately or off-market if the council is circling. You need the public proof of the listing to show the tribunal. We have to be clear about what is happening in the UK right now. The concept of private property is being eroded before our eyes. The social contract used to be simple. If I buy it, it's mine. If I pay the mortgage, it's mine. If I want to leave it empty for 5 years because I'm sentimental or I'm working abroad, that's my business. That contract is broken. The state now believes that your property is a national resource first and your private asset second. If you are not utilising that resource to their standards, they will intervene, they will fine you, and eventually they will take it. This isn't about protecting neighbourhoods from dangerous derelict ruins anymore. This is about revenue collection. This is about forced distribution of assets to cover for the government's failure to build enough houses. If you have a property sitting empty, you are sitting on a ticking time bomb. You cannot afford to be passive. The days of leaving it for later are over. Later is when the letter arrives. Later is when the locks change. Take action this week, furnish it, get a guardian in, or sell it. But do not ignore it, because I promise you, the council certainly isn't ignoring it. I want to know your stories. I know many of you watching have inherited homes. Have you received a warning letter about an empty home? Have you been hit with that insane 300% council tax bill? Leave a comment below. The more we share these stories, the more we can expose the scale of this resource grab. If you found this investigation valuable, and if these defense strategies helped you plan your next move, please hit the like button. It helps the algorithm show this warning to other homeowners who might be sleepwalking into a seizure. And make sure you are subscribed and you have that bell notification on. In the next video, I'm going to investigate the net zero rules that are about to make half of the UK's rental properties illegal to let out, and what that means for property prices in your area. You do not want to miss that. Protect your keys, protect your rights, and I'll see you in the next one.